to another episode of Woman Witness Podcast, The Stories at the Well. I'm your host, Leah Fortier. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of women who are out there making a positive impact in their lives, in their communities, in the world around them. Today, we have a very, very special topic that I want to talk to you guys about. But before I introduce my guest to you, I want to read a little bit about her. I want to introduce you to Ashlee Davidson. She's a dynamic, influential leader, and she has dedicated much of her career to empowering women and a diverse audience to confidently disrupt their industries with their unique skills. As a keynote speaker, she leverages her authentic experience and expertise to inspire individuals to pursue their biggest aspirations. Through her educational background and corporate knowledge and life journey, she demonstrates how to overcome significant challenges and achieve victories. Ashlee's genuine approach and enthusiasm for her work distinguishes her as an exceptional keynote speaker. She establishes a personal connection with her audience by sharing her own victories and challenges in a relatable, inspiring manner. Her speeches are infused with energy and passion, leaving listeners motivated and empowered to take action in their own lives. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you my very special guest, Ashlee Davidson. Hey, Ashlee, welcome to the Well.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so funny as you're going through my bio, and thank you for graciously saying all those kind words. I automatically think back to the girl that I was, decades ago. And wow, I don't even know if I could have thought that that would be all of the things. So it's just, sometimes that moment of self-reflection is very powerful.
Absolutely. And Ashlee, you deserve it. And you're out here making a positive impact in the community. And that's why we have you here today, because you are going to share with us exactly what you are doing. And I can definitely relate to that of, that self-reflection saying, wow, look what I've accomplished. So Ashlee, I want to go ahead and start. I want to jump right in. I know I just read a little bit about who you are, but would you mind telling the audience who you are?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So first and foremost, thank you again for this opportunity. And just a little bit more about me. A lot of times when people ask me, who are you? What's exciting about you? I always tell people I am a woman that wears several hats, like many of us. So I'll start by saying I am a firm believer in the Most High and what He does for us each and every day. And my other hat is I am a wife. I am also a mom to two toddlers. And I am also a sister, an aunt, a niece, a corporate executive. And now, as of this last year, I've formally added keynote speaker to my title. So very exciting hats that I juggle and wear. And we can talk about managing all those different hats as well. But, aside from that, I think my biggest thing is I've been in corporate America for almost 20 years now, all in the aerospace and defense industry. I've had roles of continued challenge and progression in communications and public relations. And going back to what I said when we first kicked off, I've always known that that was the journey that I wanted to take. But a lot of the doors that have opened for me, a lot of the tables that I've been able to sit in, a lot of the audiences that I've been able to speak to, I couldn't have imagined decades ago. And not because I lacked the ambition. Right. I just didn't have all the keys and I didn't have all of the confidence. And so that is really the big platform that I stand on now to motivate and inspire. And the last piece that I'll state is with all of those hats and even, being a corporate executive and now, doing all of the speaking that I'm doing, I try to live authentically. So the person that you see today, I would hope that people that work with me on a day-to-day basis experience that same person. I would hope that my husband would say the same thing. Now you get a little bit more flavor depending on, the relationship, right? Yes. But the authenticity of who I am and what I believe and what I put out to the universe allows me to do things without feeling as though I have to put in more energy than's needed because I am who I am. And
Right.
I think a lot of times, especially for women, we feel like we have to conform in certain spaces to
Yeah.
make other people feel comfortable with who we are. I
Yeah.
try to live outside of that, not only because it makes me comfortable, but because I want people to learn that uniqueness is okay. But I also want to create pathways for my 2-year-old daughter and all of the young women that are coming behind us.
Yes, absolutely. I love that so much, Ashley. You made so many great points from wearing multiple hats and being able to juggle them all. And quite frankly, make it look easy, okay? Um, what we all
Listen,
aspire
it's
to do.
already, I know we're on different time zones, but we chatted a bit already, and I'm
Yeah.
like, midday here, and I've done 8 hours of things already, from doctor's appointments with the kiddos to
Yeah.
work to, like spring cleaning. Like, you got to do it all.
You have to do it all. You have to do it all. And I love it. And you make it seem so graciously, and you do it so graciously. And but which is why I want to talk to you. I want to jump outside. I want to go outside my notes real quick, because there was another thing that you said, which is doing it authentically. And I think that for many women, and this is a platform for women, so I'm going to just speak to women right now. For many women, we struggle with being our authentic selves, because we don't want to maybe offend no one, or we don't want to come in, too bright, and I've learned a few things over the years. But I want to talk to you about, when did you come to the point that you said, you know what, I have to be my authentic self, and I'm going to just go for it. Talk to me about that.
So I think a couple of things. We could spend the remainder on just this, but I'll be brief, because I know there's other things that we want to discuss. But there were two things that really solidified it for me. I think one was maybe 10 years or so ago. I moved from one company and received a fantastic opportunity to go do a new challenge in a brand new state, and just kind of took a leap of faith, knowing that it was the next big role that would help propel my career. I realized at that point
Mhm.
that I needed to figure out how I wanted to show up, because at this point I
Mm.
was becoming a leader of leaders. I
Mhm.
was getting invited to more senior rooms and tables. I knew that, especially in my particular industry, there were going to be less people of color
Yeah.
represented in some of these forums. And so I made a conscious effort at that point to
Mm.
really say, who is Ashlee and
Mm.
how is Ashlee going to show up? And oh, by the way, the reason that Ashlee has been granted this opportunity is, number one, because this is where the Lord wants you to be and go, and what he wants for you. And we can go into that too. But
Yes.
also because of the hard work, ability, confidence, grind that you've put in thus far. So
Yes.
all of that has nothing to do with what you look like, what the external is. All of that is what you brought to the table.
Yes.
So in this moment, continue to bring that, but show people who you are authentically. And
Mm.
so it wasn't an easy thing to navigate, but I
No.
think what really solidified it for me too was I had a conversation a couple months after going into that new role,
Mm.
and I actually moved to Florida. And so one person that I became friendly with at work, very sweet lady, said to me, I've never had a Black friend. And I said to her, wow. And it was
Yeah.
very
Very
genuine,
genuine. Yeah.
very innocent.
Mhm.
But it really struck a chord in me
Yes.
that she was not only excited about our relationship because of who I was, but because she
Yeah.
had never had that experience. And
Yeah.
I was like, how many other people have I been in rooms with that have never experienced a me? What is it that I want to bring to the table so that they can experience the fullness of being a Black woman? And if I'm the only person that they experience in this time span of whatever, what is it that I want them to remember about us? And I can't speak for all of us, right? Obviously, because you're different from me and I'm different from you. And that's what makes us beautiful and authentic and unique. But what do I want that narrative to be? Because what is the other narrative that they might have in their head based on what they see on social media or the news or whatever, right? And so that was the shift for me that I said, I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to be this person because I want to be memorable enough that they know that anytime another job opens and a resume comes across their desk and they see a person of color, and for any second they may have doubted for whatever reason or reasons, they have to take a second look because you met me and you experienced me. Right. And so that in itself was the shift. That was the moment for me.
Ashlee, oh my goodness. Wow, that is deep. Okay. And it makes you one, from what I hear you say and what you said, you not only thought just about that moment and how you showed up, but you too thought about that next sister behind you and how she is perceived. And man, it's so interesting that you say that. And I think it's such a great point, because I think when we start showing up as our authentic selves and thinking about the impression that we are making on people who have not experienced working or working with someone of our, color, or our race, or our religion, or our sex, it's very important that we show up as our true selves. That was such a great point. Thank you for sharing that, Ashlee. I think a lot of us can take that and really run with it, and think about how we're showing up, whether we're showing up friendly, whether we're showing up angry, whether we're showing up insecure, mad, sad, or just, happy just to be in the door.
I always tell people, I think it's okay for us, culturally, we bring a little sass, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Culturally, we bring color, we bring
Yeah.
expression.
Right.
And I stand on that. I
Right.
stand on that and I stand on that firmly. I a
Yeah.
lot of times I'm in rooms and I'm the only for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And most other folks in the room show up with their black and gray suit on. And
Mhm.
I come with
Little
my
pop.
royal blue,
Yes.
sometimes my pink, I give you a little bit, I give it to you, right? I
Yeah.
give you a little bit of color on the lip sometimes because
Yeah.
that's how I'm feeling today. And
Right.
that's what makes me me. And at
Mhm.
the same time that I show up that way, I also perform. And a lot of times I outperform. And
Yes.
so at the end of the day, people are almost like, I don't even know what to do with this. What is this? What is this? Right? I've gotten out of being humble about that. And I hope that that comes
Mm.
across the right way. I'm
No.
never arrogant, but I've gotten out of the humble approach to it
Mhm.
because I'm supposed to be here. I was chosen for this moment. And
Yes.
my bigger thing is, what experience do I want my daughter to have? I want my daughter to have an experience where sometimes the thoughts that go through my head because I am the only, or because things are uncomfortable,
Mhm.
I don't even want that to be her reality. So
Yes.
forget breaking glass, right? It's more just, how do we create this normalcy for the little sisters
The
that are
little
coming
ones.
behind us,
The little
the
ones.
little babies.
Well, you are doing it. You are definitely doing it, and you're doing it with class and confidence. I want to talk to you a little bit about this is something that you speak about in all of your information and online. You talk about acting now and not waiting to live out your dreams and be your authentic self. So I want you, we spoke a little bit about it, but I want to talk to you about why is it so crucial that individuals start actively pursuing their dreams and not waiting on this big aha moment, or a flip of a switch. Talk to us about the crucial importance of acting now.
The thing I'll say about that is there's two things I'll say on that. The first really relates to where I am in as a corporate executive.
Hmm.
So the role that I am in today, the planner in me, right? Like when I
Hmm.
charted out where I want to be, where I wanted to be, and how I was going to get there, I charted this role for myself maybe 5 to 7 years from now at best, right? With hard work and grind and all
Yeah.
of that. For all my family and friends that really know me, they know I live through the word intentionality. And so I've
Mm.
been very intentional about the steps that I've taken, the roles that I've chosen, the faith that I've placed before, anything that I do, to kind of say, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
This is presented to me. I'm going to explore this. I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to walk through that door. And I think that when people think about the now, a lot of times we allow a level of uncomfortableness, the lack of confidence, or
Yeah.
the unknown to kind of be, or the lack of. So the reason I bring up like the master plan that I had is because if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would have been doing any of this, I would have told you no,
Mm-mm.
absolutely not. And the reason why is because when I look at the credentials of the majority of my peers in the
Mm.
space,
Mm.
it's that timetable doesn't align, right? you
No,
gotta you gotta put in more years and time and grind, and
absolutely.
right. And so, but I've been very intentional in this time
Mm.
frame to take on roles. And when I take on roles, I take them on, and I take them on head on, to not
Mm.
only just do the role, but figure out how I make things even better. So
Mm.
in doing so, I've created for myself, I've kind of just like, time has just lapsed, right? Like I've kind of
Yeah.
like skipped over, some time and space that otherwise, if I had just kind of been just going around the motions or about the motions, I
Yeah.
may not be where I am. And so
Mm.
I say that to say, when people think about now, like there is no better time than now to just do it.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
other thing that I'll say about that, and it kind of goes to the speaking opportunities, or what I'm now exploring, is you and I have spoken about this a little bit briefly. Like the Lord has been toying with me with this speaking thing for a couple of years. And when I say toying, it's more like He's presented this as like, I've had many opportunities the last few years where just unsolicited people will ask me to speak on a lot of the topics that we're talking about now. The amount of follow up or reach out, or the folks that want to speak to me after, or just the stories that I hear, and just how that's impacted my life, but also the larger impact that I know I can make on our community. Like every year, the Lord's like, you need to do this. You need to run with it. Like last year, I gave you 5 opportunities. Like, and so I just know that if you don't act on it by a certain point, He may take that from you. He's given you enough insight into it to say to you, I'm going to present this to you. You may not know how you're going to do it, but I'm telling you, if you go for it, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to show you that the doors will open. I'm going to show you that you can add one more hat. That to me is powerful, to know that if you're intentional and you have somewhere to go, you can get there, and you can kind of like skip time and space, right? Because you are that good. But also the fact that if you are a believer and He presents something to you, don't just take it as that might be right. Like
Yeah.
he's presenting that to you because He wants you to know that He's going to carry you through that
Yes.
unknown, and that there is something better for you using your talents and gifts.
Yes. Yes. That you can actually take your talents and gifts, and there's light at the tunnel. All you have to do is believe it. I love your word intentional, and doing things intentional, and which makes a difference. It makes a whole lot of difference. I mean, we can talk about this all day long, give all kinds of examples, from working out to, being a mom to being a wife, right? If we do it with intentionality, we get further. And I love that. And I love what you said. You didn't say the word, but I added or put that word in, is believing it, because I can agree with you on a hundred different ways. And we could spend forever talking about it. When you talk about when God gives you a glimpse of who you are, it's scary. Especially if you haven't operated in that space. I don't know why you would be afraid though. Like even just listening to you speak, I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, you should have started this a long time ago. Uh,
For me, my kids are young, so
yeah,
obviously we're just starting
yeah,
our family, and like
yeah,
all of life was happening,
yeah,
and I was like, there's just no way, there's no time, like right, like there's just no time, there's no opportunity, and slowly but surely, like these different opportunities were being presented here and there, and I was making them work, and
yeah.
they were actually turning out to be really successful, and I was like, okay, so
This
this
is what
is
we're
this
doing.
is this is what I'm doing, right? This is what I'm doing.
Mm.
This is just another layer or dimension of who I am and what you've provided me that you want me to give to the world.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. Ashley, talk to us about why people tend to postpone their dreams and their aspirations.
There's so many reasons, unfortunately, but I think it boils down to everything from your upbringing to the number of doors
Yeah,
that get closed to the things that people tell you
yeah.
to just your overall lack of faith. Man, even with the
Mm.
successes that we've talked about for me, I will tell you, I can't even count how many roles I've had in communications over the
Yeah.
time span that I've been in industry. But I will probably say quadruple the amount of roles that I've had doors closed, right? Where
Mm.
I've had
Right.
positions that I've applied for or conversations with people and I thought it was going to turn into something, or I presented myself for things and I mean like tears, right? Because you
Yeah.
get to there's been points where I've gotten to the final interview of 5 different rounds of interviews and I'm like, oh man, like this
This
is,
is it.
and then like you're not the chosen candidate, right? And so you can obviously there's defeat in that,
Yeah.
there's depletion in that. That can be a big piece of it, right? But for me,
Mhm.
it's kind of been like some kind of way, there's like a fire in my belly that's always like, if okay, that one just was not for you. That one was just not for you. That was just
Mm.
not, that was not my mom always told us like if a door is not open for you, you don't go and try to bang it open.
Knock
Like
it
that's
down.
not your door. And the
Mm.
reason why is because there's another door that when it slides open, I mean, it's probably gonna be 3 times what you were trying to bang on the other door to
Yes.
get.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of times people get so deflated that they're like, whatever, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that if you keep on the journey, if you continue to put out the right vibes and intentionality and the right grind,
Yeah.
that at some point that right door will open for you. I can even speak about that when it comes to like meeting my husband, right? It's just there's just so many things that like
Mhm.
happens in your life where you're like, man, I thought that was the right relationship. And
Yeah.
and then you can be deflated and never want to go back. But
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
have to just be intentional and know that the plan that he has for your life is much bigger than what's in front of you. A lot of times people too, our upbringing doesn't afford us the exposure to
Mm.
see the goodness of what can be because
Yeah.
we only see what's around us.
Yeah.
And even growing up, we grew up, I guess you could call us middle class in
Mhm.
Connecticut. We didn't have everything, but we had enough. And
Mm.
my parents who worked hard every day with what they did make, they would sacrifice. I know they made
Yeah.
tons of sacrifices for us just to be able to go on things like college tours or
Yeah.
just get on the road and instead of flying because flying's too expensive,
Yeah.
drive the 10 hours to go have a family vacation, and like that was the best thing
Yeah.
since sliced bread for us. But I even know that
Mm.
points, things that I'm exposed to now, things that I'm exposing my kids to now, I didn't have any exposure to that.
No. No.
And,
Nope. I didn't either.
didn't
Yeah.
even know those things existed. I think sometimes people's lack of exposure just because of where you come from tends to also give you this narrow perspective of the dream is unattainable.
Mm,
And
that's true.
man, I'll just close on this one by saying, you know, even where I am right now
Yeah.
and the exposure in the rooms and the things that I get to experience, I know that there are so many things that I still have no exposure to.
No.
And what is that going to look like? I mean, how
Yeah.
exciting is that, right? Like, I mean, maybe
Yes.
it's even stages that I'll be invited to speak on and locations with people that I've never experienced. And how cool is that? But
Yes.
I won't be able to do that if I don't strive for the dream.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I think that's the thing that people have to keep in mind is, where do you want to go? How do you in your person be intentional about getting there? How do you have enough faith to believe that he's going to carry you there? And going back to the first point, how do you not allow the door that didn't open to be the deal breaker for where you're trying to go?
Mm. Oh my goodness. That is so true, Ashlee. Ashlee, where does this faith come from? Where does
Oh,
it where does this come from? I mean, I this is not even my next question, but it sounds like your faith is just there to just blast down all those doors and those barriers that that could stifle many people. Where does
yeah,
it come from?
yeah. I'm thankful. I'll go back to my parents. I'm thankful that they instilled in me and my siblings those values very early on. We grew up in a small church in Connecticut. Church was
Mm,
almost like family. Sundays, that's what you did. And you might go Wednesday for Bible study, or maybe if we can make it
yeah,
between sports and everything else. But we were
yeah,
heavily involved in our church. My parents always served on different ministries. My siblings and I were always ushers and in the choir. And that
yeah.
was where I got my first opportunity to speak. Like,
Mm,
in 5 or 6 years old in Black History Month, you get an opportunity to
yeah.
recite something. But I always saw that no matter what situation we were going through as a family growing up, the church was a big part of that, right? So when there were celebrations, I mean, aside from us having family and friends that attended, we knew we had to invite everybody from church. So you had to find a space that like could, because they were like family, right?
Your
Even the
family.
pastor. But even when we were going through hard times, right? Like my mom and dad might not tell everybody in the church, but they would tell enough people who would pray for us, would be there for us, would show up for us, would take care, of things. And
Mhm.
so I've always grown up with that. I'll share that in my 20s when I thought I was, young, fly, free, and grown. That I think that's when life kind of slapped me around the most. Not that I haven't had things that have happened as of lately, but I would say maybe even into my early 30s too. But it tested my faith a lot. And more so it was because I was either sometimes trying to go a different way, do a different thing, be in different relationships, experience different things, and it slapped me. But at the same time, I held to my faith. And I saw how my faith carried me through a lot of situations that I hadn't experienced before. And my faith was tested in a lot of situations, but I held to that. I held to that even in times where I was like, I don't even know if I'm going the right way or if I'm doing the right thing. And now as the woman that I've become, knowing, my experiences, knowing my upbringing, and knowing how I got to where I am today, I know that it's all God. I know that my
Yeah.
grind, my ability, all of that plays a big factor, but all of that could be taken away from me tomorrow.
Mm.
And I stand on my faith. And so even now it's funny, people, a lot of my close friends and family, every Sunday the kids go to church. Like, I'm so pleased. My daughter loves her children's ministry, was singing Jesus
Oh,
This I Know yesterday. It was so
I
sweet.
love it. And she's too.
Too, right? And so
Mhm.
it's a big piece of
Foundation.
who we're becoming as a family too.
Yeah,
And I want them to go their own way. I want them to have their own beliefs
yeah,
and be their own people. But at the end of the day, I want as their mom, I
Mhm.
want them to know that, mommy always stood on her faith. We always attended church. That was a big part of who we are.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens to them in this life, even when mommy and daddy are gone, they still have the man above.
Yes.
He never leaves us. He will never forsake
Yes.
us, and he will always provide for my children and my children's children. And so
Mhm.
that's just a big piece of who I am.
I love that so much, Ashley. I hear your faith. It shows. It's beautiful. It's glowing, and I love the fact that you are instilling that firm foundation in your children. And I think that's where it probably stemmed with you, and where you can lean on it even today. I love that so much. So, Ashley, for some of our listeners who are listening and they have these barriers for themselves, and let's just say perhaps they are new believers, talk to us about some actions that they can take towards achieving their dreams or start moving towards them.
Again, intentionality is
Yeah.
huge. And a lot of times when I'm speaking to especially younger women who I'm mentoring or just having a conversation with because, they may have seen me or met me at different points, I'm
Mhm.
very big on asking people, well, what's your plan? Like, what's your plan? How you going to tackle this?
Yeah.
And the majority of times, people don't have a plan.
Don't have a plan.
They just don't have a plan, right? They have a dream, but they don't have a plan. I think that in itself is where
Mm.
we create the barriers to success.
Yeah.
And I will say, as Black women,
Yeah.
it is still very hard for us to achieve a lot of our big dreams
Yeah.
for a variety of reasons. That's for a
Yeah.
whole different
Whole different
episode, right?
podcast.
Um, But in saying that, right, wrong, or indifferent, it is important for us to have a plan. And it's important for you to figure out the steps that you need to take in order to achieve success. So if your goal is to become, X, Y, and Z doctor,
Yeah.
and you're now in undergrad and you're about to graduate, you can't just say, I want to make that happen. You have
Right.
got to have a plan. I mean, you got to have a financial plan. You got to have a plan of, the additional schools you want to attend, the people you want to surround yourself, the people that you might need to remove. I even say to my folks that, work at different companies that I worked at, and they say to me, I want to sit in your seat one day. And I'm like, well, what's your plan? Your X, Y, and Z level today. What's your plan? And when I say that to them, I always say, what are the skills that you don't have yet that
Mm.
you think you need in this seat that you need to go build? What are the roles that you need to go do in order to, make yourself more marketable?
Mm.
What other companies may you need to go work for? And oh, by the way, that might mean you may need to consider making a move. Are you game for that? Right? What does that look like for you?
Wow.
And so a lot of times I
Yeah.
think we just lack planning, but also with planning, there's mentorship. And I
Yeah.
will say I've been so fortunate over my career, so fortunate to have mentors of all different backgrounds who have saw
Mhm.
something in me and have somewhat like latched on to me to say,
Yeah.
you pretty much don't even know what you're capable of, but let me show you. Like, let me show you, or let
Yeah.
me point you in this direction, or I think you should apply for this role. Just different things at different points that have made all the difference. And so I try to be that for people too. So I would say between having a plan and getting a good mentor, someone who is excelling in the way that you want to excel, those things are critical because you can't go it alone, especially again, going back to exposure. If you've
Mm.
never had the exposure,
Expect-
you don't know all the ins and outs of what it takes to
Right.
get to that place.
That's good. I heard you say planning and mentorship. And that is a great place to start when breaking down those barriers. Because, like you said, if you think about it, it's the fear of the unknown. So, if you're looking at a goal and you just write it down and then write down that gap, that helps at least expose the unknown, right? and you can start seeing where you have strengths and where you have weaknesses and start working on those. And now I see where that mentorship comes from, because that mentor can see those strengths in you and start really pulling on them. So I love that so much. It almost sounds like when I'm writing my books and, creating that outline, right? And then going back in and filling in those meat and potatoes. So that makes me excited. I should start working on my next book. Um, okay, so I want to talk to you as we move on. I want to ask you this one last question, and then I want to move on to another topic before we close off. Give us some real life examples. And I know you talked about yours, but give us some real life examples of people you've known or came across who regretted not taking action on their dreams.
I will be nameless.
Okay.
But I will say I have a family friend who is amazingly talented in his craft and has always been. I've known this person for longevity, and they probably should have surpassed all of us, because it just was natural. It was so natural. I think for them, they were always told that they were that good. Right? Like they were always told that, like, you're, and naturally, because the talent was there. So it was always like, you are amazing. You're going to be amazing. Kick down the doors. Here you come.
Yeah.
And they did get to a certain point. Many people probably saw them even on TV because they made it to that point. Okay. But they lacked the grind.
Yeah.
To take it to the next level, because they had always been told, like, you're awesome. When you get to the height of success where you're at that place, now you're with people who are right.
Yes.
It's like I went to a communications, executive women communications conference last year. And it's like, all these C-suite female communications executive, and it was powerful, but it was also a very humbling reminder to me that the competition is real, right? You have got to continue to hone your craft. You have got to be on your A game. You have got to, even if you're in the room. And so I think for him, he lacked that, unfortunately. And everything just, without going into too many details, everything just got stripped away. He's continuing now, right, to try to rebuild and but it's an unfortunate situation, because what he could have been and the potential that he had, it really was like a thrown away dream, because he didn't have the grind when he got in the room, because of, the other thing that, I'll say is, I think a lot of times we as sisters in general, we tend to count ourselves out early. I spoke last month during Black History Month, one of the engagements that I did. A young lady came up to me after, and she said to me, I don't really know. She's like, thank you so much for your inspiring words. I'm going to, go back and work on my personal brand. And I said, well, what are you branding yourself to go do? And she said, I don't really know, because she went into detail about the last 2 businesses she tried to create and how both of them didn't work. And so she said, I don't really know, what I'm trying to do. I really don't, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, where I am and what I can contribute. And I said to her, well, that's all great, but don't spend time creating a brand that's not going to stand up to be of value to you. You got to do some soul searching. My point in saying this last piece here is that I think sometimes we as Black women in general, we don't take the time to do self-care, reset, rejuvenate, do the soul searching. So we go down paths because we see other people doing stuff, or something looks good, or, can put some dollars in our pocket, and then it's not your passion. And it's not the thing that, you're rooted in. So it's almost like a facade. I've seen that happen too.
Yes.
And I think it just boils down to, again, intentionality, right? Like for both examples, being intentional about the gifts you have, and being willing to figure out how you continue to take things to the next level. But even speaking about this young lady, being intentional, figuring out what it is that you want to contribute. Like I could sense that she didn't even really know
You
who
know.
she was, right? Like
Yeah.
and so I was kind of putting the mirror in her face to say, you got to figure that out before you talk about a personal brand. Cause you could, don't try to brand yourself off of what I showed as my personal brand, because my personal brand and your personal brand are totally different, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
until you figure out who you are as a person, you're not going to be fully fulfilled in whatever the dream is that, you want to bring to a reality.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Ashley, you said so much. I'm literally, I want to jump out, just want to jump out of my seat right now. One, you said with your cousin, and you said with him moving into, and I totally get it. Sometimes we can encourage people so much that they feel they don't even have to try. And when they've skated through life and doors were opening, they never crafted their skills. So I can really see how even some of us, some of our listeners who are listening, we can take that for ourselves because doors have been opening for us. We are, gifted and talented in many ways. And, sometimes we don't take the time to go back and perfect our craft. So I hear you so loud and clear on that.
Even with the speaking, the speaking that I'm starting to do now, it's so funny. My husband like laughs because he's like, I love him dearly. He's my biggest cheerleader. And at times he's like, you got this, and I still, a couple times a week, whether it's TED Talks or,
Yeah.
different people that I'm following on podcasts, I'm always looking and listening to speakers because I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm always learning. I'm always engaging. I want to make sure that I'm understanding how the folks that are at the height of their craft right now are doing it, even what they're talking about, right? And so I just think there's always something to learn, something to grow, somewhere else that you can go. And
Yes.
sometimes we get too comfortable that we, forget that
Yeah.
piece,
Yes.
and you might be missing out on the next opportunity.
Yes, 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 absolutely, Ashley. I couldn't agree with you more, and that's what I think I love so much. That's what I know I love so much about this platform is because I get to talk to women like you. I get to talk to you and put you on the platform so you can be a witness to others who are trying to find their own way. And one thing that you said, as far as with the young lady that you spoke to, you said a lot, but I want to just focus on one. I loved how you pointed out to her, like you said, you turned the mirror back so she can see herself and really truly find out who she is in the print, in the footprint that she can make in this world. And it's not going to be like yours. One, I heard you say, and then two, I love what you said about everyone being their own individual person. And, as sisters, you and I spoke about this a little bit when we spoke. As sisters, being able to, not only when you walk through that door, but making sure we can, there's plenty of room up here for all of us to be here. But you have to come as your own authentic self. And then that way you come as yourself and you sit in your seat and not anyone else's, and you'll be able to stay in there much longer.
That's a whole different podcast,
It
but
is.
you should
It is.
do, you should do a podcast just about there's a seat for everyone, because I think that
Mm,
in itself is something that I remind everybody that I mentor, everybody that I get close to, that people of color, especially Black women, I remind them that there is so much space for us in
yeah.
this world. You do not need to compete with me. You do not need to compete
Yes.
with Shelly or Tanya or whoever. Like, run your own race and
Yes.
know that there is so much space for us. Going back
Yeah.
to one of the questions you asked me at the beginning, and just like my experiences in corporate America at many different levels, especially the last 10 years, I'm presented as the only,
Yeah.
every single day,
Yeah.
and just in my one small space. And I
Yeah.
go and talk to people in many other spaces, and they are the only two. There is so much space for us. There is so much of a need for us in these spaces so that we can change the narrative or the bias, the unconscious bias that other people have. So again, going back to my daughter and the generations to come, I don't want this to be their experience. Heck, I
No.
want my daughter to be competitive because of her talent and her skill set and what she brings
Absolutely.
to the table, not the color of her skin or anything else. And
Right.
I want for her to be saying, "Mommy, you sound so old talking about, you were the only at the table. Like there's
Yes.
500 Black female Fortune
Mm.
500 CEOs now. Like that's so old school." I want her to be saying that, right?
Oh, wow.
And for these types of conversations that we're having to be less relevant because we've made such of a positive disruption. So there's so much space, so much opportunity, and so much work to be done for us to get there.
Yes. Oh, Ashley, you are definitely right about that. We do need to have another podcast, another
Yes,
episode on that.
yes.
You're right. We can go on and on. Ashley, have you written a book yet?
No, I have not.
Because I
I
was
have not.
just getting ready to ask you to tell us where we can find your book.
Oh,
Come on. We have to get your book. You have so many great you make so many great points. You are breaking down so many barriers, and we gotta, what is Habakkuk 2 says, write the vision and make it plain. Okay. I've taken so much of your time that we didn't even get into the second part of what I really wanted to talk about, which is fine because I definitely want to have you back on. But before we leave and before I let you go and for you for the rest of your meetings today, leave something with our listeners, something that they can take with them and really get going on their dreams and their aspirations. Give us some positivity, Ashlee.
I've said this a couple of times, in recent talks, but I am not unique in the sense of I have superpowers that any other female or Black woman doesn't have. What I do have is the confidence to know that the talents that I do have and the ability that I do have needs to be shared with the world. And I think a lot of us, again, going back to all the things that we've discussed today, for different reasons, doors get closed. We don't have exposure. We don't have the confidence. Our faith is lacking. We don't pursue with intentionality. We don't show up for ourselves. We don't send one more resume. We don't find a mentor. There's all these reasons. It's easier to don't. It's easier to not do. It's so much easier to be mediocre or average. It takes intentionality, focus, grind, grit to be exceptional. But know this, when you put in all that work, it will come to fruition. Whatever it is, it will come to fruition. It may not come to fruition exactly in the timeline. I'm here to tell you that too, exactly in the timeline that you had for yourself, but it will
Yes.
come to fruition. And when it does, the exposure, the doors that will open will blow your mind. It will
Mm.
literally blow your mind. And the biggest thing that you can do when you get to that point is look back and pay it forward, right? Like look back to the people that you can bring with you, mentorship, guidance. Who can you offer a job to? Who can you position so that they have an entry point? But then look forward to what you can now do on your platform. What on your platform can you do to help the generation that's coming after you? And I'll
Mm.
leave you with this because I love the late, great Maya Angelou, and she has so many phenomenal quotes, so much great words that, I could never put together myself. But the thing that always resonates for me is the quote that she has where she says, "I come as one, but I stand on the shoulders of thousands." So if
Yes.
you think back generationally to all that Black women have experienced over decades of time, generations of time, the countless challenges and endeavors that are unspeakable that our ancestors had to endeavor, not knowing that you and I would have even this level of space and
Right.
opportunity. How
Right.
much further can we go to honor the ancestors? How proud are they now of what you and I are doing? But how proud will they be of my daughter Maya, who's named after Maya Angelou? How proud will they be of Maya over the next few decades for what she brings to the table? How can we honor our ancestors?
Ashlee, that was so sweet. Okay, hold on. Get myself together.
It's so true.
Okay, Ashlee,
Even
that was
even
good.
you and I right here, right
That was
now,
sweet. Yeah.
our ancestors are so proud.
And
They are.
honestly, that's where I went. In my mind, when you were saying that, I was like, what if they are looking right now?
They're watching us.
And, you know, would
When
they be?
I show up, I know we gotta go. When I show up in spaces and I get uncomfortable or something happens to me and, it's a point where there's contention or I'm like, "Okay, wow, this is, this is happening to me because of X," right? And it's a point where
Yeah,
you could either go back in your shell or you can show them that I need to be here. I am the
right.
positive disruption. Aside from the Lord above, I know that my ancestors, especially the Black women
Yeah.
who are championing for me, I know that their spirit is pushing me forward. I
Yes.
know that. And we should all know that, right? Because they want to see us excel.
Yeah.
So, how
Yeah.
do we honor
Yeah.
them? How do we honor them?
By excelling, by going after our dreams, by stepping in these places, in these spaces, and sitting in the seat that is rightfully yours. Okay, Ashlee, that was good. That was motivating. That was good. And in light of Women's History Month, that was on time. Woo, give us a time and word, Lord. Okay. Ashlee, thank you. Thank you for coming and pouring at this well. You could have been anywhere pouring, and I'm grateful that you stopped by and you filled this well with some good inspiration. And you told us that we need to go after our dreams, and you let us know that we need to get in these rooms and take that first step towards walking in our purpose and in living out our dreams. So, thank you so much. I will leave all Ashlee's information in the description below if you want to book her to speak either at your meetings or in your groups or troops or anywhere that needs to hear some of these positive words that she spoke about today. Please look in the description below. Follow her on social media because she has a timely word that everyone needs to hear. So, again, thank you, Ashlee, for being my guest today.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. I know that we will stay connected because your
Oh,
spirit is amazing. And I look forward to what's to come for you as well.
thank you so much, Ashlee. Okay, thank you, ladies, for listening and checking out another episode of Woman Witness Podcast of Stories at the Well. Perhaps, just maybe perhaps, you were chosen for such a time as this to write, to tell your story, your truth. Until next time, bye.